Hello. Thank you for joining us for today. We will be talking about um, anxiety management from the Keene State Wellness Center Counseling Services. Just to introduce myself, I am Jennifer Bellissimo. I'm one of the pre-doctoral interns at the Counseling Center this spring.
And I'm Deanna Loziniak, so I'm another one of the graduate interns at the Counseling Center for the spring.
Yeah, and we thought we would, we've run this workshop a few times live over the spring semester. We also run a group every semester at the Wellness Center to talk about anxiety, management of it, different ways that you can pull some techniques into your life just to make things a little bit easier when you do experience those heightened moments. So the focus of today is going to be learning about what anxiety actually is, and then we're going to go through some techniques. And today our focus is really going to be on the breathing techniques and how to incorporate those not only when you are feeling anxious, but also into like your regular daily routine. So what we'd like to start off with is just a little bit of a background as to what anxiety is, and how that actually functions, in your life. Because a lot of times we may not realize that mind-body connection. So when we experience some anxiety, we have different nerves within our body. We have the sympathetic nerves and we have the parasympathetic nerves. And for the most part, our parasympathetic nerves are activated. Those are like the rest and digest. So we'll notice that, we just have a slower heart rate. We're feeling much more relaxed. Our pupils like are dilated and we're taking in all sorts of information. We're just kind of like going through regular motions and really not even noticing anything. When anxiety actually happens and when we start to like recognize that something might be different, or we start experiencing some worry about an event that's coming up, such as a test or a change in routine, um, or anything like that, our sympathetic nervous system gets activated, and that's more the fight or flight. And that's where we start to notice our body just putting a lot more energy into things. We might notice our pupils dilate and we kind of have that tunnel vision where we're not seeing what's going on around us, but more so just focused in on what is different. And literally, I've done some research in this, and I've talked with students, and their experiences are like, I just only could focus in on one or two things. Additionally, you'll notice, your breathing kind of increases. So your breath becomes a lot shallower and a lot quicker. And that's not getting that oxygen to your system that you need in order to kind of keep things under control. Your heart rate is going to increase. So you'll notice that it picks up and it's rapid, and you can almost feel it, like that rapid increase. And then like with regards to our stomach, we're not in that relaxed state where we're digesting. Instead, we're actually like starting to maybe feel some, like tenseness, or some discomfort, or, like just a complete like tightness in your stomach. Often you hear like, oh, I had like knots in my stomach and stuff like that. So all of these things kind of like come into play. And what we're looking to do is with these breathing techniques, when we start to experience them, what we want to do is kind of slow things down. We want to, open up that lens of perception that we have and take that tunnel vision and slowly start to open it up so that we're aware of what's going around us. We want to slow our breathing down in order to get the oxygen into our system so that we're feeling our entire body. We're not getting that tingling numbness in our fingers or in our legs or anything like that. We want to just keep the oxygen coming in. Additionally, we want to make sure that we're, getting oxygen to our brains so that we're actually able to talk, to think a little bit clearer, and slow down our thinking, and slow down that worrying. And all of these workshops do build on one another. So I'm bringing up certain things without getting too much into the specifics. So, like I said, what we'd like to do today is just kind of focus in on the breathing. And Deanna is going to take us through a number of different options. And it's important to kind of figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, and so with that, as Jenna had mentioned, this is a really great kind of like foundational skill in terms of managing stress, feelings of being overwhelmed, or kind of like an anxious bodily response that we've been talking about, which, can be triggered by, any number of things, especially with all the new situations that people are adjusting to right now. So this is a really great skill that it's really pretty quick to kind of pick up and start to practice. It's really, kind of like discreet. You can do it whenever it works best for you. So, even if you weren't, in the comfort of a space where you were by yourself, taking a moment to do some of these kind of deep breathing techniques, you could probably, take a few deep breaths without, people kind of getting a sense of like, oh, are they okay or anything like that. It would just kind of really be for you, and taking a moment for yourself, without, attracting too much attention from other people too, which is nice. So it's really portable. Um, and so, as Jen mentioned, this is kind of like a really good basic skill to kind of interrupt all of these heightened kind of experiences that we're having within our nervous system. And so, especially with kind of like the elevated heart rate, the shallow breathing, things like that. So by taking a moment to do some deep breathing, we're kind of almost like resetting our response to this and engaging our nervous system in a little bit of a different way to try and shift that response. So the first one is just called deep belly breathing, or sometimes they'll call it like diaphragmatic breathing. And so this is kind of like breathing exercise, kind of foundation block. And so what this breath is like is, if anyone out there has any like singing abilities, or they've ever taken singing lessons, or a lot of times like yoga or playing instruments, it's very similar to how you would breathe when engaging in those kinds of activities. And so basically the goal of it is just to make sure that the breath goes beyond just a shallow breath that usually stays within your chest and goes all the way down to your diaphragm, which is in your abdomen. So a good way to know if you're doing that is to take a moment and to kind of get comfortable. And what you can do is you can put your hands kind of like this, so just barely like overlapping, and you can put them right here. I'll stand up to show you. But so putting them right on your stomach, just like that, so that they're just a little bit overlapped. And you'll notice that when you inhale, okay, your hands are going to move just a little bit out. And when you exhale, your hands are going to move just a little bit closer together, resting on your stomach. Okay, we'll try that. We'll take 3 deep breaths together. All right, so take a minute, get comfortable wherever you are. Adjust your seat if you need to. And then when you're ready, we're going to inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, and last one, inhale and exhale. Okay, so I know it might have been kind of tough to see the movement of my hands or Jen's hands, but just something to note too, that don't be too discouraged if you don't feel like your breath is really going all the way down to your diaphragm immediately. I think that this can be a little bit tough. And I think over time, if you continue to practice it, it can, it'll get easier. So then you'll notice that your breath will travel a little bit further down and won't stay so shallowly in your lungs. But so yeah, so just a heads up about that. But hopefully you'll notice kind of after taking a minute to take a few deep breaths, maybe your body feels a little bit more settled, or a little bit kind of more calm. Maybe your heart rate's decreasing just a tad. So that's kind of the hope. And so with that kind of basic like foundational breath. Now there's two more types of breathing that that are more pattern based that we'll go over. So there's triangle breathing and square breathing. And so basically what they are, we'll start with triangle breathing, but basically what it is we're doing those deeper diaphragmatic breaths that we just learned in a more intentional pattern. And so with the triangle breathing, we're going to breathe in the pattern of an upside down triangle. Okay. And so basically what that's going to look like is it's going to look like an inhale, and then we'll hold the breath and then exhale and then move right into the next inhale. And so typically with this one, each side of the triangle is going to be roughly like a count of 4, which I'll keep track of for us. So don't worry about that. But that's done, and we're going to do 3 rounds of the triangle. So that's kind of like a nice place to start, especially if you haven't done these breathing exercises before, because it gives enough time for the body to kind of like reset and refocus on your breath a bit, without being too kind of like laborious, especially if you haven't done this kind of thing before. So you can always work up with continued practice to doing, maybe like 4 or 5 kind of rounds of this breath, or maybe, spending a little bit more time on each side, things like that. So unless there's anything else that you have to add, Jen, to that, we can jump into the triangle breathing.
No, I think one of the things that I kind of picked up on as you're talking is that this is a practice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that, we encourage people to work on, and recognizing that starting off can be difficult. So putting that expectation on yourself to do things the right way isn't necessarily going to help a situation when you start to encounter that worry and those anxious feelings and all of that. So I think the word practice is just really important to keep in mind for everyone.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And that, even if it doesn't go perfectly, just the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you're taking a moment to check in with yourself, check in with your body, and try to slow things down, I think can be really beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like you were saying, even if it's not, even if it's not maybe optimal.
Mm-hmm.
And just to reiterate too, these are really good things that can be used in the moment when you're noticing that you're feeling overwhelmed or really stressed out. But also, I've worked with people who really like doing this kind of like practice like at nighttime, or maybe right in the morning when they wake up. If you tend to wake up a little bit stressed, or if it tends to hit you a little bit more closer to going to bed, it can also be something that you do a little bit more habitually as well, and not just kind of like in the moment.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
All right, so with that, we can do some triangle breathing. So again, I just invite everyone to get kind of comfortable, whatever that looks like for you. Just get in a comfortable seat or laying down, wherever you are. And then we will get started. And so we're just gonna take a minute, refocus on where we're at, and we're gonna inhale and hold and exhale. And inhale and hold and exhale. And final round, inhale and hold and exhale. And that's kind of one full set of triangle breathing.
Yeah. I think it's super helpful too that people figure out the different ways of inhaling and exhaling as well. I was kind of thinking about that. Whether you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, or whether you breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. Again, I think that practice piece is so important when you're not feeling stressed, because you can use it in the moment, and because it isn't something that other people are going to notice. But if you get into that practice of like really exhaling pretty strongly, that might be, that might draw some attention from other people. So really getting into that practice and allowing your body to become comfortable with it on a regular basis is only going to help in those moments of keeping it something kind of personal when things become stressful.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a great point. And I think a lot of people also find that they'll really prefer, say, like just taking like the deep belly breaths, or they'll really prefer doing the triangle breathing versus, the square breathing, or they really prefer the square breathing to everything else.
Yeah.
So it's okay too, if you're realizing that as we're going through these, it's like, I didn't really like the first one so much. There might be another one that you feel like suits you better, and that's totally fine. Like that's actually really normal. Where the people that we work with, and or based on like your own past experiences, like some of these you may have practiced before. Some people tend to really gravitate towards one style of breath than the others, and that's totally fine. And there's also a lot of additional breathing techniques out there as well. So I just don't want people to get discouraged, where even if, the ones that we're kind of starting with, these are kind of like the basic go-tos that most people tend to find one that they kind of enjoy or feel comfortable doing. But even if that's not the case for you, that's okay, because there are like other ones out there. Or, maybe there's other techniques that might suit your needs a little bit better that we might be getting to later in our series. So, because we will be shifting things. So just so you know that, so that's out there.
I know.
And with that, we can do some square breathing. So square breathing is a really similar pattern to the triangle breathing, except it adds that fourth side. And so that's just an extra hold. So what that'll look like is, and each side will still be a count of 4. So it'll look like inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Okay. So, and again, I'll kind of keep track of the timing for us, and we'll do 3 rounds. So when we're all ready, we can kind of get in a comfortable seat and refocus our intentions to our breathing. And inhale, hold, and exhale, hold, and inhale, hold, and exhale, hold. Final round, inhale, hold, exhale, hold. And that's square breathing.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that one, sometimes people really enjoy it, and that kind of pattern works well for them. Me personally, I think sometimes that hold at the bottom, the hold of the exhale, can be a little challenging. So sometimes, especially, in the moment, for me, it can be really nice to do more of like a triangle pattern. But the square breath, I kind of like that the pattern is a little bit longer, because then sometimes it can be, even more like resetting in a way.
Yeah, and I think it's just so important to keep in mind that it's just an exercise that's just going to kind of reset your response, your body's response, and just bring some awareness as to how your body's responding. I know in working with people, I've worked with some clients who have been very clear in what their body experiences are. And then other people who are like, I have no idea what was going on around me, or within me, I should say. So I think, just keeping in mind that this breathing is just to kind of slow everything down, so that you're not responding with that fight or flight response, and just kind of like, okay, so I'm in the moment response. So
Absolutely. And I think with that, that was pretty much our plan for our time with you all today. And so, was there anything else, Jen, that you had in mind before we kind of wrap things up?
No, I don't think so. I think we've kind of covered all of the basics, and that's the most important part. We kind of lose track of all the basics when things can become overwhelming, or changes are made and all of that, and we're not prepared. So this is just a way of kind of like centering, um, and just one thing in a toolbox that we hope to create with this workshop series.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, we're just really grateful to anyone for taking the time to join us, and watching this when it works best for you. And hopefully, you feel like you did gain like a tool to kind of throw into that toolbox, as Jen was saying. And just to kind of reiterate that the Wellness Center, we are here for you during, these stressful times. And just to make sure that you are aware that the Wellness Center is continuing to provide resources through these workshops. Or if you feel like you need more individualized work, you can always reach out to counseling services, and the phone number for that is 603-358-2200. So just to kind of make sure that you're aware of all your resources at this time. And, thank you for taking some time to join us and some time for yourself.
Yes, thank you.